Hey y'all, so I'm back with another quick video on how to kind of get rid of some of your scrap yarn. So oftentimes when you're making a crochet project, you'll probably end up with tons of loose yarn that's not quite enough to do anything big with. So I have a way of kind of getting rid of some of that yarn. So what I've done is I've gone through some of my scraps and I pulled out some nice coordinating colors. The one thing about my scraps here that you see on the screen is they're all a bulky yarn, so 5, 6 bulk weight. But if I would have had a smaller weight yarn, I would have just doubled up the strands to make them the same bulk, okay? So this is some Lions brand yarn in here, some loops and threads, all different types of textures, different colors, but this is just a good way to get rid of your scrap yarn, okay? So without further ado, let me just tell you what I did. I used a 9mm crochet hook for this project. Works up really quickly, okay? And then just go ahead and pick whichever bundle of yarn you want to start with. We're going to end up making several strips using the same color. So whichever one you choose, that's where we'll start. Okay, so follow along on the screen there and make yourself a slip knot and then place that slip knot on your crochet hook. Now remember, there are tons of ways to do a slip knot. If you don't catch on here, please click on the description box down below. I have a video that goes a little bit slower, but once you have your slip knot, just put that on your 9mm crochet hook. Okay, I feel like this is a beginner friendly project. So basically we're going to be doing single crochet stitches, but even if you aren't new to crocheting, I do have a few tips towards the end, so stay tuned to watch that as well. So go ahead and make yourself a foundation chain, and I did a foundation chain of 20 plus 1, so basically 21 stitches. And I just sped through this a little bit because I feel like you probably know how to do a chain, but if you do not, of course, you guys, everything's always in my description box. Other tutorials that show you how to do it a little bit slower. So here I'm just showing you what it would look like if I were to cuff it over. And so once you have your foundation chain completed, you're going to do a row of single crochet stitches. So just insert your crochet hook, pull back through, pull up a loop, yarn over, and then pull through 2. Now I say it quickly, it's a lot easier just to follow along on the screen. And essentially you're just going to do a row of single crochet stitches all the way down until you get to the end. And again, just pull your yarn apart a little bit. Sometimes your foundation chain can be a little tight. If you're new to crocheting, a tip would be to use a larger crochet hook for your foundation chain and then go back to your regular crochet hook for the project. That would allow your holes to be just a little bit bigger, just in case you're not good with your tension yet and you're not really good at making your holes bigger. So that's just a tip for my newest crocheters if you're not 100% comfortable with relaxing when you're making your foundation chain, because you always have to work back through that chain. Okay. So I'm staying on camera a little bit here just so you can kind of get a hang of what I'm doing, but this is what it should look like, okay? And my suggestion would be to just count your stitches just to make sure you have 20 stitches created, because you want to keep an even number. So if you for instance end up with 18, make sure you keep 18 in the next 2 rows because you want them to be consistent, okay? Chain 1 and then turn your work. Okay, I went right there in that very first space there. Again, this is a preference thing. If you choose not to and you want to skip that space, you can. Just continue to do that in the next row. The key thing is you just want to make sure that your ends are even. So go ahead and continue making your single crochet stitches all the way down until you get to the end. And this is what it should be looking like. You have 2 rows, your initial row and now your second row. And keep going. I'm going to speed through this a little bit. Okay, and then once you get here to your end, just make sure you get it in that very last stitch. Yarn over, pull through, turn your work. And now this is our last row. So basically we've just done 3 rows of single crochet stitches, okay? In that very first stitch, like I did in this previous row, you're going to do single crochet stitches all the way down. Okay? There, we're already at the end. Yarn over, pull through. Now this is what it should look like. That is it, you guys. This is the cuff, this is the project. You're going to cut your yarn, leaving about a 6-inch tail, and then pull through, and we're going to set that to the side. Now it depends on how long you want your scarf to be, but you're going to create several little strips the same exact size, just using all the different yarn. Okay, once you've got all of that created, you're going to then organize it. Decide what pattern you want. Do you even want a pattern? It's up to you. So what was really important for my scarf is I wanted it to kind of be an even flow of color. So I created 4 of the same colors for each of the strips, with the exception of the end. So the ends, because I wanted them to match, I ended up using, I created 1 more of the beige color. So that way my ends matched up. So I used 4, I made 4 strips of the same color. And then for the beige, I did 5, okay? So then once you have that decided, whatever pattern you're going to use, you're going to go ahead and create your cuff. Now, there's 2 ways that you can actually secure the cuff so that it stays together. One way I'm going to show you here is you kind of stick the tail ends through the other side, so that way it kind of pulls the cuffs together, and then you tie yourself a knot. Now this is option 1. So basically, like I said, you're going to just push the yarn through and then make yourself a knot and secure it. This works. This is perfect. For the type of scarf, I thought it was great. But however, if you wanted to kind of sell the project, give the project away, or have a little bit more durability with the scarf, I would use option 2. Now keep in mind, option 2 does require some type of yarn needle or sewing needle. Now I will see if I can find where I got this one from and link it in the description box down below, but you want it to be a large eye needle because you're working with bulky yarn. This worked better for what I wanted for the scarf. I really wanted it to be secured and I didn't want it to fall apart. So all you're going to do, and this probably took the longest amount of time, honestly, but once you get your rhythm, there's only about 21 pieces that you have to sew together, and it doesn't take long. You left yourself a nice 6-inch tail, so you don't have to get any more yarn. You just use the yarn that you used, that you had left over, and you just kind of sew right across it, doing a little whip stitch there, making sure you get a stitch from each side. And that is that in terms of sewing it together. Once you get to that other end over there, you have that other tail, I stopped, tied those together just so that I had a little knot, and then I sewed back across to the middle. I will show you that again, what I did towards the end. So once you have your first cuff completed, you're going to then grab your other strip that you've already kind of got your patterns laid out for, and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to sew right across that top to secure that cuff. Very similar, you all, to, remember when we were little, we used to do those, maybe not everybody, but you could take construction paper and you would link it together and staple it, or put a piece of tape and then put it all around the classroom. Very similar. Okay, so here's my tip. Once you sew across, you tie your yarn to the other yarn. This is just to help everything stay secure. I then will weave my yarn back across to the middle. Okay, so you could cut it there at the end. I felt that it made the ends look a little bit unfinished, so I just kind of stitched back over to the center. Okay, just like you see there, gave it one more little tie because I just don't like things falling apart on me, and then I just cut it. Okay, if you want to weave that yarn through, that's completely up to you. I didn't find it necessary for this project, so I just cut it very close to the knot so you can't even see it. And then this, of course, is the wrong side, so I'm going to just flip it inside out. So basically just give it a little flip so you can't even see that knot. I'll show you one more time with this other yarn. I've already sewn it to the center, cut off that tail and flip it inside out. And really, you guys, that is it. This entire project took me less than 2 hours to complete, and I kind of had to write things down. Again, that's the matching ends. That's it. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Very simple, something simple to do with to get rid of some of those scraps. This measured, I think, about 80 inches long. You can always customize it. This is what it would look like if you kind of wore it. I do have pictures over on my Instagram with me actually wearing it. I didn't get a chance to put them into the video. But again, guys, if you have any questions, please head over to my website. I try to put all my patterns there. Or you can also find me on Instagram and leave me a direct message or leave a comment in the video down below. I will see you all in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.